Princess of Wales has revealed that she is finally in remission.
Princess Catherine has faced many emotional battles under the constant spotlight of royal life, but nothing could prepare her for the moment she uncovered a deeply personal treasure left behind by Princess Diana. Hidden away for decades, this heartfelt gift carried a message so powerful it brought Catherine to tears, forging an unbreakable bond across generations. The discovery not only reveals Diana's enduring love and foresight, but also reshapes Catherine's role within the monarchy forever. So, what exactly did Diana leave behind? The answer is truly breathtaking. A winter morning that was never supposed to matter. Kensington Palace had long stood as a silent witness to the weight of history. Its red-bricked walls had seen centuries pass, wars fought and won, coronations crowned in splendor, whispers of scandal that once rattled the monarchy, and secrets quietly buried beneath polished wooden floors. Generations came and went, yet the palace endured, its very stones carrying echoes of power, tragedy, and unspoken truths. But on the morning of January 14, 2025, none of that grandeur seemed to matter. It was meant to be nothing more than an ordinary winter's day, quiet, gray, and cold. The gates remained firmly shut to tourists, the familiar streams of eager visitors absent. Guards in heavy coats shifted uneasily against the bitter air, their boots crunching softly against the frosted ground. Within the palace walls, life moved at its slowest rhythm. Housekeepers shuffled through corridors, staff whispered instructions, and carts of cleaning supplies rattled gently across the marble floors. Every January, Kensington underwent its deep seasonal cleaning. Curtains were carefully unhooked and sent away for washing. Chandeliers were lowered and polished until they sparkled like drops of frozen rain. And furniture was dusted until it gleamed as though new. The usual chorus of clicking cameras and the chatter of tourists was replaced by the steady hum of vacuum cleaners, the faint scrape of ladders against walls, and the occasional clink of polish jars being set down on tables. Routine, repetitive, uneventful. At least, that was what it was supposed to be. Yet behind one set of locked doors, the atmosphere was far from ordinary. There, in the stillness of one apartment, time seemed frozen, heavy with memories that refused to fade. It was the private residence of Princess Diana, a suite untouched since that fateful summer of 1997. The rooms had become more than just a living space. They were a shrine, a capsule of another era, sealed away like a sacred relic of the woman the world had lovingly named the people's princess. Very few dared to enter. Staff spoke of the strange stillness that seemed to hang there, as if Diana herself had never truly left. Some whispered that her perfume lingered faintly, clinging to the walls. Others claimed the air itself carried a weight, pressing down on anyone who crossed the threshold, a reminder of the life cut short and the presence that still seemed to hover just beyond sight. It was into this world of quiet reverence that Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, stepped on that January morning. She could easily have sent others to oversee the work, as any royal might. Yet she didn't. For Catherine, this was no ordinary duty. This was personal. This was respect. Perhaps deep down, it was also destiny. Wrapped in a pale winter coat, she moved carefully through the apartment. Her footsteps echoed softly against the high ceilings. Her gloved hands brushed across picture frames and polished wood as though tracing memories that weren't her own. In that silence, she felt torn, part intruder, part guardian. Diana wasn't just a figure preserved in history books. She was William's mother. She was the grandmother her children would never meet. She was a woman whose shadow still lingered across the monarchy, shaping its story even in absence. Catherine could not have known it then, but fate was waiting for her. Not in some distant moment, but hidden here, in plain sight, behind a crooked portrait that leaned ever so slightly on the wall. What was hidden behind that wall? How could it have remained hidden for so long? Let's find what the decades-old secret is. The crooked portrait and a secret in the wall. The suite carried the weight of time, its air filled with dust and old wood, sunlight striping across Diana's untouched dressing table. Catherine moved slowly, careful not to disturb the silence, until her eyes rested on a portrait she had often ignored. Painted in 1894, it showed a woman with unsettling, piercing eyes that seemed to follow her every step. Though the painting itself was ordinary, its gaze felt alive, almost haunting. Yet what unsettled Catherine most that morning was not the eyes, but the slight, deliberate tilt of the portrait, just enough to feel disturbingly wrong. Drawn closer, Catherine's gloved fingers brushed the edge of the frame. A faint smear of dust came away, evidence of years undisturbed. She pressed lightly at the corner, and to her surprise, the canvas resisted her touch. It wasn't the pliant give of stretched fabric. There was something solid beneath. Her pulse quickened. This was no ordinary painting. This was a veil. "Bring me someone," she said softly, her voice carrying a strange blend of command and caution. Within moments, senior staff arrived. Under Catherine's direction, they carefully lifted the portrait from its hooks. The wall behind revealed its secret. Carved so seamlessly into the paneling that it was nearly invisible, a small recess had been hollowed out. Nestled within, hidden by a wooden cover almost identical to the surrounding wall, lay a box. It was a modest chest crafted of dark wood, its brass hinges dulled with age but still intact. The design was plain, functional, yet it radiated a quiet dignity. Catherine crouched before it, her breath misting in the cool air of the chamber. She reached out, her hands steady but her heart racing, and lifted the box free with a care usually reserved for sacred treasures. A hush fell over the room. One of the senior attendants, a man who had served at Kensington since 1995, whispered in awe, "In all my years, I've never known this hiding place to exist." The words deepened the mystery. If no staff had ever spoken of it, then its concealment was deliberate, and if Diana's favorite portrait had been chosen as its shield, then perhaps she herself had placed the box there, or meant for it to be found under the right circumstances. The thought sent a ripple through Catherine. She straightened, her gaze scanning the silent faces around her. Some discoveries were too personal, too sacred to be exposed to a crowd. "Leave us," she instructed quietly. Most of the staff withdrew, the echo of their footsteps fading into the corridor. Only two trusted aides remained by her side. The air grew heavy, as though the room itself was waiting. Every shadow seemed deeper, every sound sharper, as if the walls were holding their breath. And there, in the heart of silence, Catherine prepared to open what Diana had hidden. What did Diana hide so carefully? How was Catherine's reaction after opening it? Let's delve into the details of the legacy Catherine is about to unveil. Diana's voice across time. The afternoon sun poured through the tall window, casting golden streaks across the room as Catherine's fingers hovered nervously over the small, time-worn box. It was heavier than she expected, as though it carried not just objects, but memories that had been waiting, patiently, silently, for the right hands to open them. With deliberate care, she unlatched the clasp. The sound it made, a long, weary creak, echoed like a protest, as if the box itself had grown reluctant to surrender what it had guarded for decades. Inside, cushioned on folds of deep green silk, lay a single envelope. At first glance, it appeared ordinary, but when Catherine's eyes settled on the handwriting that sprawled gracefully across the front, her breath caught. She knew this script, the rounded letters, the elegant curve of each stroke. It was instantly familiar. "To my future granddaughter." The words froze her. For a moment, time itself seemed to stand still. This was Diana's handwriting. Princess Diana, the woman who had been more than just a mother-in-law she never met, but a figure whose legacy lingered in every corner of the palace. Her hands trembled as she reached for the fragile envelope. The paper, though old, had been preserved with almost sacred care. As she unfolded it, the first thing her eyes met was the date scrawled at the top: July 10th, 1997. Catherine's chest tightened. That was only weeks before Diana's tragic death in Paris.
From our very own Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, who's in the Far East at the moment, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has in fact been killed in that car accident.
The letter's words unfolded, like a whisper carried across nearly 30 years, tender, raw, and aching with both hope and sorrow. Diana had written to a granddaughter she could only imagine, pouring into the page the dreams she would never see realized. She wrote of courage in the face of adversity, of laughter as medicine for the soul, and of the weight of royal duty that so often pressed harder than anyone outside could ever understand. Diana's warnings were clear, yet wrapped in love. She urged her granddaughter never to let the crown consume her, never to forget the girl behind the titles and the heart behind the crown. And then, a single line seemed to burn itself into Catherine's mind. "My wish is that you will rise where I could not, that you will live unbound by the walls that closed in around me." Tears blurred Catherine's vision. This wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a living message, one that had traveled across time to speak directly to her daughter, Princess Charlotte. But as Catherine gently lifted the silk once more, her hand brushed against something else. Beneath the first letter, hidden away like a secret within a secret, was another envelope, smaller, thinner, yet somehow heavier in its meaning. Her pulse quickened as she read the words on the front: "To the woman who will help guide her." Catherine's breath hitched. This one was meant for her. Diana, in her foresight, had not only imagined Charlotte's future, but also the presence of the woman who would shape it. The message inside was brief, yet its weight was immeasurable. "Guard her spirit as if it were your own." The words seemed to press against Catherine's heart, heavy and unshakable. It wasn't jewels, titles, or traditions Diana had passed down. It was something far greater. She had entrusted Catherine with her granddaughter's very soul. And in that moment, Catherine felt destiny settle on her shoulders, a bond across generations sealed by ink, love, and sacrifice. Apart from the letter, was there anything else Catherine came across while searching through the old box? Let's dive into the details of the discoveries from Diana's legacy and the protest against it. The emerald heirloom and the brewing storm. Beneath the folds of silk, something shimmered faintly, as though it carried its own light. Catherine's hand trembled as she reached in deeper, her fingers brushing against cool metal. Slowly, she drew it out. A necklace, magnificent and breathtaking. At its center rested a large oval-cut emerald, dark green and endlessly deep, framed by a halo of diamonds that caught every flicker of light. Its weight pressed heavily against her palm, as though it carried not only gold and stone, but also history and untold secrets. Beside it lay another treasure, a delicate ring perfectly designed to match the necklace, the same emerald glow encircled by diamonds. Together, the pieces seemed alive, whispering stories of the past. An elderly butler, who had served the family for decades, caught sight of them. His eyes widened, his lips parted, and a sharp breath escaped him. In a hushed voice, filled with reverence and shock, he uttered the words that froze the air in the room. "The royal daughter's heirloom." For years, the fate of these jewels had been one of the palace's greatest mysteries. They had belonged to Diana, the beloved Princess of Wales. After her tragic death, the necklace and ring had vanished, their whereabouts unaccounted for. The press had speculated endlessly. Some whispered of theft, others of secret deals, and many of palace cover-ups. But no one knew the truth. Until now, the truth revealed itself in Catherine's hands. Diana herself had hidden them away. She had not trusted the traditional chain of inheritance, nor the rigid customs of palace control. Instead, with quiet defiance, she had chosen to safeguard them until the right moment, until the right person would receive them. These jewels were not meant for just any member of the royal family. Diana's decision was deliberate and bold. They were meant for her granddaughter, Princess Charlotte. The meaning was monumental. This heirloom had for generations passed from mother to daughter within the royal bloodline. By hiding it, Diana had broken the cycle. She had chosen her own path, her own heir. It was more than a gift, it was a statement, a message preserved in emerald and diamond. But in the palace, nothing remains hidden for long. Within 48 hours, whispers spread like fire through stone corridors and hushed chambers. And soon enough, word reached Queen Consort Camilla. Her response was immediate and icy. She summoned aides, demanded answers. Where were the jewels? Who had them? What was to be done? Her tone was sharp, but it was not the authenticity of the heirloom that troubled her. It was what they symbolized. If one day, young Charlotte were to appear in public wearing Diana's necklace and ring, especially if accompanied by a personal letter from Diana, the press would seize upon it. They would not see just a child in jewels. They would see Diana's legacy rising again, her influence renewed, her shadow cast once more over the monarchy. For Camilla, who had lived her life in comparison with Diana, the thought was unbearable. The late princess's name still lingered in headlines, still lived in the hearts of millions. And now, these jewels threatened to awaken her memory in a way that no public speech or royal decree could silence. To Camilla, it was not merely troubling, it was dangerous. It would be like a coronation of Diana's ghost, she muttered to a trusted aide, her words sharp with dread. Was Catherine able to defend the role she just got from her late mother-in-law? Would she be able to face the opposing forces? Let's dig into the details of Catherine's defense of the legacy Diana is passing to her granddaughter. Catherine's stand and the palace divide. Camilla had been unyielding in her stance. She insisted that the box, with all its contents, be locked away deep within the royal collection, buried in the hidden archives where neither the public nor young Princess Charlotte would ever be able to touch it. To her, the past was dangerous. It carried ghosts that could disrupt the delicate balance of the present, ghosts best sealed away forever. But Catherine could not agree. Her heart refused to let history be erased so easily. She felt Diana's memory beating through every fiber of that wooden box, and she knew that what it contained was not meant for secrecy. It was meant for truth, and for Charlotte. Summoning every ounce of courage, she decided to bypass the usual protocols, the endless maze of royal advisors and private secretaries who so often filtered what the king saw. She went straight to Clarence's house, directly to King Charles himself. When she entered the room, her steps were deliberate yet quiet, her hands steady though her pulse raced. Before him, she carefully placed the wooden box, its surface polished but worn with time, as though it carried both dignity and sorrow. Charles hesitated before opening it. His fingers lingered on the clasp, almost fearful of what he might find inside. Then, slowly, he lifted the lid. A folded letter rested neatly within, beside a necklace of deep green emeralds that seemed to glow in the lamplight. He read the letter once, his eyes moving quickly across the lines. Then he read it again, slower this time. By the third reading, his face had softened. The weight of memory pressed heavily on him. His eyes grew glassy, and in the silence of the room, the presence of Diana seemed to fill the air. The necklace sparkled faintly, as if her spirit itself was watching. Catherine's voice broke the silence. It was calm, but carried an unmistakable strength. "This was meant for Charlotte," she said firmly, "not for a vault, not for archives, for her." The words hung in the room like a final judgment. For a long while, Charles said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy and uncertain, as though the entire history of the monarchy was pressing down on him in that moment. Finally, with a slow nod, he spoke. His decision was measured, his tone firm. The letter and the necklace would be placed in the royal vaults for safekeeping. But there would be one unbreakable condition. On May 2, 2033, Charlotte's 18th birthday, they would be handed to her. No delays, no substitutions, no excuses. It was a compromise, yet also a verdict. The matter was supposed to remain private, but secrets rarely last within palace walls. Within days, whispers spread through the corridors. Some praised Catherine, calling her the true guardian of Diana's legacy. To them, she was a modern protector, unafraid to honor the late princess's wishes. Others, however, saw it differently. They accused her of stirring wounds that the monarchy had spent decades trying to heal, of pulling ghosts into the present when they should have remained buried. Admiration for Catherine swelled among the younger generation of palace staff, who saw in her a strength that reminded them of Diana herself. But alongside that admiration came resistance, a quiet, growing defiance from those who remained loyal to Camilla. Lines were drawn, though no one spoke of it openly. The palace had been split. Catherine's resolve had not only preserved Diana's gift, but had also ignited something else entirely. A silent war had begun. Why was Catherine so receptive to the instruction? Has she been like that for long? Could she really deliberately imitate Diana's dress styles? Let's find out. Catherine's style, Diana's influence. Catherine, Princess of Wales, uses fashion as a subtle but powerful tribute to Princess Diana, blending tradition with modernity while shaping her own identity. Her carefully chosen outfits often echo Diana's iconic style, creating a symbolic bridge between past and present. Fashion experts note that these choices honor Diana's legacy without overshadowing Catherine's individuality. From a polka dot dress at Royal Ascot, 2022, reminiscent of Diana's 1986 Derby look to a tartan coat in Scotland, recalling Diana's style, Catherine's wardrobe reflects continuity, compassion, and respect, keeping Diana's memory alive for future generations. Catherine has also explored Diana's more daring style moments. While pregnant with Prince Louis in 2018, she wore a striking red and white houndstooth coat, reminiscent of one of Diana's most memorable jackets. In 2021, she stunned at the premiere of No Time to Die in a glittering gold gown. Royal watchers instantly compared it to Diana's metallic look at a Bond film event in 1985. Both gowns dazzled, yet Catherine's felt unmistakably her own, sleek, contemporary, and powerful. Through these echoes, Catherine demonstrates a gift for balance. She honors Diana while adapting her essence to modern fashion. Military-inspired tailoring has also found its way into Catherine's wardrobe. Her structured outfits recall Diana's sharp Sandhurst suit from 1987, though Catherine wears them with a softer, updated touch. Each of these choices reflects not imitation, but reinterpretation. Catherine never tries to become Diana. Instead, she translates Diana's style into something current, proving that tributes can be timeless when handled with care. This evolution has been gradual. In the early years of her marriage, Catherine's style was noticeably cautious. The immense shadow of Diana's fashion legacy loomed large, and Catherine seemed intent on avoiding direct comparison. But as her confidence grew, so too did her willingness to weave Diana's influence into her public wardrobe. Today, her tributes feel effortless, woven seamlessly into her style without appearing forced or theatrical. Now, bearing the title of Princess of Wales, the same title once held by Diana, Catherine faces both opportunity and challenge. Diana remains the immediate association for many, her memory vivid, and her influence profound. Yet experts believe Catherine is steadily reshaping the role. Through her elegance, humility, and distinctive sense of self, she is carving a path that complements Diana's legacy without being defined by it. Ultimately, Catherine's approach to fashion is more than clothing. It is storytelling. Each dress, each coat, each carefully chosen accessory is part of a larger narrative, one that honors the past, acknowledges the present, and builds a vision for the future. As she continues to step into her role, Catherine's tributes to Diana remind the world of a bond that transcends time, while also ensuring that her own legacy as Princess of Wales will one day stand strong, side by side with Diana's enduring influence. Surprisingly, it seems Diana was not through with her message. What was later found? Could it be a personal message to the king, her sons, or her daughter-in-law? Let's talk about the legacy Diana laid, which extends into the future. Ripples of legacy and the promise of 2033. The story did not end with a single box. In February 2025, while archivists worked their way through the untouched corners of Princess Diana's former suite, they stumbled upon something extraordinary. Buried quietly behind folded linens and hidden as though the late princess herself wished to keep it safe, they discovered a sealed cedar chest. Its fragrance of aged wood filled the air as it was lifted into the light, but what truly stole their breath lay inside. The chest held treasures no one expected: dozens of letters, cassette tapes, and carefully kept photographs. Each item seemed to carry Diana's spirit. Some envelopes bore the names of William and Harry, tender words left for the sons she adored. Others were addressed to children she would never live to meet, her grandchildren. And then, among them, were several marked with unmistakable handwriting, the ink faded but clear. Private. For my daughter-in-law. What Catherine, Princess of Wales, heard on those tapes would change her forever. Diana's gentle yet determined voice crossed the distance of decades, speaking truths that felt painfully current. She spoke of the heavy chains of palace duty, of a life watched by millions yet often painfully lonely. She spoke of her dream that the monarchy could one day be rooted not only in tradition and rigid protocol, but also in compassion, warmth, and humanity. The letters carried the same purpose. They offered wisdom for teenagers growing up under the crown, advice for mothers juggling duty with tenderness, and heartfelt warnings about never losing one's true self in a world that prized appearances above sincerity. Every word felt as though Diana had written them with the future in mind, as if she had somehow known Catherine would one day need them most. For Catherine, already enduring her own battles with illness, constant public scrutiny, and the relentless weight of royal life, these discoveries were nothing short of salvation. They were not simply old keepsakes, they became guidance, mentorship, and comfort from beyond the grave. Diana was no longer just the people's princess frozen in history. She was now a quiet companion, whispering strength into Catherine's heart. Moved by this gift, Catherine began her own quiet tradition. She started writing letters to George, Charlotte, and Louis. Tender notes meant not only for their present, but for their future, carrying her own lessons of motherhood, resilience, and love. In her way, she built a bridge from one generation to the next, mirroring Diana's vision. In public, subtle changes appeared. Catherine wore pieces of Diana's jewelry, not the famous emeralds, but small earrings, delicate bracelets, understated reminders of a bond that stretched across time. It was her way of declaring without words that Diana's influence was alive, shaping the present. Yet, in the background, all attention moved toward one date, May 2, 2033. On that day, Princess Charlotte would inherit the emerald heirloom and the private letter written for her by the grandmother she never met. Some imagined the moment would be one of beauty and continuity, proof that love and legacy endure. Others whispered it could reopen wounds, stirring Diana's shadow in ways the monarchy might find hard to control. But when that envelope was finally opened, when the emerald rested against Charlotte's neck, the world would see more than jewels or paper. They would witness the unbreakable power of a promise, a message of love carried across time. And for Catherine, it would mark the completion of a journey that began on a tearful winter morning in 2025. The morning Kensington Palace was changed forever. So, what do you think about Princess Catherine's discoveries? Can she properly handle the tasks Diana gave her? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.